Dalyxman. I just listened to your video about Daniel Bryan. I must ask, have you learned nothing from CM Punk and John Cena? I keep saying this, and I keep saying it. Daniel Bryan cannot be a top guy because he doesn't have a good character. The fact that he is a fantastic wrestler does not matter. Wrestling ability does not sell tickets. We did not buy. No one watched the Money in the Bank pay-per-view because they wanted to see the Cena versus Punk match. They watched the pay-per-view because they wanted to see the finish to the Cena Punk match. That's why we all wanted to see the pay-per-view. The character and the storyline is what sold the match. Characters and storylines are what sells tickets, not wrestling ability. Now, can Daniel Bryan have a gimmick based around his wrestling ability? Sure, Kurt Angle did it for years. You can do that. But Daniel Bryan, his gimmick as it is now, will never draw a dime. The reason that crowd went so nuts for Daniel Bryan winning the Money in the Bank, one, it was a surprise because nobody picked Daniel Bryan to win. And two, that was an ROH style crowd. And what I mean is, they're all there to see Punk. They want to cheer for Punk. They know that Punk's from ROH, and so is Daniel Bryan. He's part of that CM Punk kind of crew. That's why they cheer for it. Anybody that was ever in ROH could have grabbed that briefcase and got the same reaction. And you talk about Daniel Bryan being a good promo guy. I'd like to see it because every time this dude talks, I get bored. He looks boring. He sounds boring. He's a nerd gimmick because he looks like a nerd. They talk about him being a vegan and crap. I mean, really, they should just have him running around with AJ. Let them be a little cute nerd couple. Daniel Bryan, in order to ever make any money for the WWE, needs a serious gimmick overhaul. Because his current gimmick is boring. He needs somebody to help him look better on the mic. The Miz storyline was great. Not because of Daniel Bryan. The storyline was about the fact that Daniel Bryan had more wrestling experience than The Miz, and yet The Miz was his pro. There's a ton of other dudes you could have put in that spot and had the same storyline. You could have had the exact same storyline if you had to put AJ Styles in that spot. AJ Styles is on NXT and The Miz is his pro. You could have done the exact same thing. You could have done the same thing with Christopher Daniels. You could have done the same thing with Samoa Joe. Anybody that has more wrestling experience than The Miz, you could have put in that spot and done the exact same storyline, and it would have been just as good. Had nothing to do with Daniel Bryan. He was just a guy. He was interchangeable. The Miz made that storyline, and he could have done it with anybody. I actually liked that Daniel Bryan won Money in the Bank too, just because it was surprising. I honestly didn't see that one coming. I mean, my money was on Wade Barrett or Sheamus, not or they can both win. Sorry, my money was on Wade Barrett or Sheamus, but Sheamus didn't really need it. And Barrett, well, his star's fallen so much that poor Barrett. But back on topic. However, I do think Daniel Bryan will be the first person to cash in and lose, and that will be because of his integrity. See, Daniel Bryan's the goody-goody. He's not going to sneak up on somebody and cash in. He's going to be the guy that walks out there, looks the champion right now and say, this date, I'm using my contract, this is when I want my match. He'll come out and face, and he'll lose. The heel will cheat him, screw him. Christian will low blow him to win, or Sheamus would cheat. But Daniel Bryan, he'll be the first guy to not win. I just can't see Daniel Bryan as WWE champion anytime soon without a serious gimmick overhaul. He needs some real storylines. I like Cody Rhodes, but him and Cody Rhodes, it just ain't doing it because the storyline's not really about him. The storyline isn't really Daniel Bryan versus Cody Rhodes as much as it is Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. That's the story. Again, Daniel Bryan's just there. You could put anybody in that spot and they'd be doing the exact same storyline. Because the storyline is Cody's disrespecting Ted Jr. and Ted Jr.'s going to have enough and knock Cody's block off, and then they're going to feud. That's the feud they're building up. No one gives a crap about Daniel Bryan. As a matter of fact, Daniel Bryan might not even cash in. I can see him being one of those guys who puts the briefcase on the line in a match and loses it. I can see him losing the briefcase to Sheamus or Wade Barrett. The point is, he ain't gonna be world champion anytime soon because he doesn't have the it factor. Wrestling ability, he's got it. He's got his mug of wrestling ability is overflowing. He's got so much wrestling ability, he could give some of his abilities to some other people and he'd still be fantastic. I wish they could take some of Daniel Bryan's wrestling ability and give it to a couple of the divas so we can get some decent divas matches, and because he'd still be great. Nobody's denying his in-ring ability. I mean, you're crazy if you deny Daniel Bryan's in-ring ability. But he doesn't have the entertainment factor. He's boring on the mic. His character is boring. He doesn't have the look that says champion. You know, I said this before in a video I did a while back, talking about people that I didn't think were championship material. And it comes back to the same thing I said. You know, the WrestleMania poster. The poster says WWE Championship, WrestleMania main event. On the left side, put John Cena. Does the guy on the right side of the poster look believable? And when you put John Cena on the left side and Daniel Bryan on the right side, no one outside of the IWC believes that Daniel Bryan's going to win that match. That crowd at Money in the Bank was an IWC crowd. It was clearly an IWC crowd. That wasn't casual fans. You had an IWC crowd who knows who CM Punk is from the past, who knows who Daniel Bryan is from ROH, and they were excited to see him. That's really what happened here. Daniel Bryan, what do you do with him? You can attempt to make his gimmick his wrestling ability like Kurt Angle did in the past, where he starts making a lot of guys submit and a lot of guys tap and beating a lot of dudes that are a lot bigger than him. You know, he made Mark Henry tap. That'll work. You know, Mark Henry's big and huge right now because of what he did to Big Show last night. And you know, if Daniel Bryan a month from now makes Mark Henry tap, now you got him over. Now you got him over as the I can make anyone tap guy. That could work. But right now, he sucks. Daniel Bryan as a complete wrestler sucks. In ring, fantastic. Everything else, he's got nothing. And maybe it's not his fault. I'm not going to blame it all on him. Maybe it's not his fault. Maybe, like a lot of these youth movement guys, these young guys in WWE, they have been saddled with shitty gimmicks. And that's not really their fault. I think there's a lot to that. You know, and I sometimes think that maybe they're not allowed to change the stuff. Because when I look at, like, I've heard a lot of guys who left WWE talk about how they wanted to pitch things and creative just was like, nah, whatever, and didn't listen to them. And I've heard a lot of guys, you know, the Zack Ryder thing, I mean, he got himself over using his YouTube show and lots of signs, but yet he still, you know, you got top stars like John Cena saying he should be on TV getting a shot, and yet they just don't. I think it's more of some of these young guys have some ideas for their gimmick that they want to try, but management won't let them do it. And unfortunately for a lot of these young guys, they have been saddled with shitty gimmicks. That's why I've always said that these youth movement guys in WWE are so boring. Again, maybe it's not his fault. Maybe it's that he's saddled with a shitty gimmick and they won't let him change it. I'm more leaning towards that than just him sucking in every facet except wrestling. But the dude is just dull. He's boring, man. I watch his matches. His matches are good, but I'm not excited for him. because there's nothing. Daniel Bryan doesn't have anything that makes me say I have to see his match. He just dulls me to sleep. After the stuff with Miz was over, he ain't done jack since the Miz. The Miz has left him behind main event at WrestleMania, and Daniel Bryan has been dull since that feud. He has been boring since he won the U.S. title from the Miz. Since then, he's done nothing. His character hasn't evolved. He hasn't had a notable feud. He's filler to set up the Cody Rhodes versus Ted DiBiase feud. Get this dude something, man. Hang on a second. Let me go to the WWE website. Let's see if we can't find somebody for Daniel Bryan to feud with. Let's see here. Superstars. SmackDown. Alright, let's look at the SmackDown roster. Alright, now, once the Cody Rhodes Ted DiBiase feud kicks off, he'll be done with Cody Rhodes. You got Brodus Clay. That could be a big guy for him to make tap. You could do face versus face and him and Zeke, and he could go out the IC title. You got Heath Slater. Jinder Mahal could be interesting. Daniel Bryan versus Jinder Mahal feud, that could be something. Maybe Jinder Mahal wanting to take the Money in the Bank case from him. You know, he could go a while and defend that case like a belt. Justin Gabriel, that could be fun, but Gabriel's pretty boring too. I mean, at least with Jinder Mahal, you got a clear-cut face and a clear-cut heel. You got a guy who he has enough heel heat that he'll be able to carry the storyline. You'd have Kane go heel because he did something where he's like, I think like last week or the week before, where he was saying something like, I don't feel like a monster anymore, so he needs to start destroying some people, get his monster heat back, and then he can go after Daniel Bryan. Again, trying to take the briefcase. Mark Henry, there's one. Sheamus is always a possibility. Wade Barrett, maybe. Again, Wade Barrett wants to take the briefcase from him. I mean, you got possibilities here, but let me go ahead and end this video because Raw's starting in 2 minutes and I got to be at work in 30 minutes. So, Dalyxman, again, I keep saying this over and over and over. Wrestling ability does not sell tickets. Characters and storylines sell tickets. Unless Daniel Bryan sometime soon gets an interesting character or an interesting storyline, he's going to be dead in the water. I like Daniel Bryan. So let's hope somebody in WWE Creative gets off their ass and says, hey, let's actually make this kid interesting for once so we can do something. Alright, I gotta go.